Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you find yourself in this weird, wild, wacky world of ours, and welcome to a solo scene in darkness in Dublin. This evening's scene is set on the werewolf set in front of a small campfire as Joshua gently stokes it with a piece of wood. Around him are gathered the young, those who need to be taught a lesson and told a tale. He smiles at them, his eyes touched with mirth, and he says, "Well, in order to understand something, oftentimes you have to start at the very beginning. Things and stories that are oftentimes lost, veiled and shadowed. So I'll tell you what I know. Maybe then you'll tell it to someone, so these things can grow, spread from one set of lips to another, and thus it is. Stories never truly die. Long ago, when Fionn McCool, the great leader of the Fianna of Ireland, was still a young boy, he was sent to live with a very wise man named Finnegas. Finnegas was a poet who lives on the banks of the River Boyne and was renowned throughout Ireland for his vast knowledge. Many things did he know, many secrets, many truths, maybe lies, and maybe certain facts. Who knows? Who can say? And as well as being a renowned scholar for his skills in composing and reciting poetry, Finnegas knew more than any in the ways of the world, including the secrets of the birds and the animals and the plants, the stars, and other men scattered throughout the lands of Ireland. It was because of this vast knowledge that Fionn was sent to learn from Finnegas. Fionn loved to listen to the old man's wonderful stories and his many words of wisdom, which he too, in time, would learn to recite. In exchange for this wisdom, Finnegas would pass on to him. Fionn would help him around the house, cooking, cleaning, and fishing for the old man. However, despite Phineas's vast knowledge, he didn't know everything, and there were times when Fionn's endless curiosity got the better of him, and he left unable to answer the young boy's questions. After all, there's only so much space between your ears. You can only know so many things. Is there any way of knowing everything? Fionn asked him one day, one bright Sunday morn, and Phineas responded, well, this was a question that Finnegas had asked once too, and it was the very reason he lived next to the River Boyne. It was said that it had been told by the Druids of the old, and the old ways, still living and some dead, that living in the dark pools, the shade, and the overhanging hazel trees was the salmon of knowledge. It was the result of eating these nuts from the magical hazel trees that the salmon had acquired knowledge of all of the world, from up to bottom, to side, hither, dither, nither, and yon. And so it was that, according to prophecy, the one who would eat of the salmon would gain the knowledge for themselves. Finnegas had ever been living at the edge of the river for several years now, attempting to catch the salmon and gain the knowledge for himself. After all, that's the nature of things, isn't it? We all seek something knowledge, power, friendship, love. In the end, we all seek something. It so happened that one day, not long after Fionn had come to study under him, that Finnegas went fishing and finally caught the salmon. I've caught it! I've caught it! He cried happily. He immediately reeled it in and ran up to Fionn with the salmon in his arms. You must cook it straight away, Finnegas ordered Fionn, dancing and skipping with excitement. As Fionn began to set up the spit in order to cook the salmon, Finnegas warned him, cook it, but whatever you do not eat from it a single bite. Fionn nodded and went about cooking the salmon while Finnegas went to fetch extra firewood. Upon his return, Finnegas found the salmon laid out ready to eat, but looked at Fionn and thought he saw something different about him, that there was a light of wisdom that shone in his eyes. Have you eaten from the salmon? He asked Fionn anxiously. I have not, replied Fionn. I have you tasted of its skin? He inquired once again. I have not, replied Phineas, but there was turning on the spit. But when it was turning on the spit, I burned my finger and put my thumb on my mouth to ease the pain. Finnegas' heart sank. That's enough, he told Fionn. You've tasted the salmon of knowledge. In you is the prophecy fulfilled, and you have gained the knowledge of the world. He ordered Finn to eat all of the salmon, down bones and all, so it said. Well, that couldn't have tasted very nice. But I suppose these things happen. However, when Fionn finished, he realized he didn't feel much different, nor did he feel wiser than before. When he told this to Finnegas, Finnegas replied, "If it was your thumb that was first burned, then place it in your mouth." And Fionn did as Finnegas suggested, and immediately all of the knowledge rushed into his head. Can you imagine knowing everything? I genuinely can't. You wouldn't know which way was up. You must go now. There's nothing more I can teach you, Finnegas informed him. You're destined to become a wise poet, warrior, and leader. And so it was that when Fionn grew up, he did indeed become a wise poet, warrior, and leader. He became a great leader of the Fianna, the greatest warriors of Ireland has ever seen. And so it is we sit here, and I tell you the story. Legacies upon legacies, built of old, spirals within spirals, circles within circles, truths within truths. After all, a story is only as true as you believe it to be. Isn't that right, children? Now, go along, and maybe I'll tell you another one a different day. Go on now. Tomorrow's a new day after all. Rest up, and we'll see what it'll bring us.